Hi all, welcome to the Augmentor webinar. We'll be discussing how we support B2B immersive businesses here at Digital Catapult. Let me start this webinar by introducing myself, as I'll be your host for today. So my name is Leia and I run our Augmentor acceleration program. So I do everything from designing its content, curating our partners and mentors, to also day-to-day work with all the startups. Before we delve into all things immersive, I'll just quickly run through some housekeeping notes to ensure that everyone today has a great experience. Throughout the webinar, your camera will be switched off and microphones set on mute to avoid any distractions. We encourage you to ask as many questions as possible throughout the session. So please feel free to raise them under the Q&A box that can be found on your Zoom menu below. We will pick the most upvoted questions during the Q&A session, so please make sure that you give them a thumbs up button if you wish that a certain question really gets answered. Please also note that this session is being recorded, so if you happen to drop out for any reason or you need to leave, don't worry. We will share the recording afterwards. Now, I also wish to very quickly skim through the agenda for today. We're actually going to start with a brief overview of the Augmentor Acceleration Program. And this should provide you with more details about the program's objectives and as well as the format. And then we'll also proceed with 3 10-minute fireside chats with the awesome Augmentor partners, mentors, and alumni. And we will finish our webinar with a Q&A panel session when we'll answer your raised questions. So next, I'd like to introduce you to Jessica Driscoll, Head of Immersive at Digital Catapult. And Digital Catapult is actually the organization that is developing this program. And Jessica will tell you a bit more about who we are and what we do. So Jessica, over to you.
Thank you very much, Leia. So good morning, everyone. As Leia said, I'm Jessica Driscoll, the Head of Immersive Technology at Digital Catapult. And for those of you who don't know us, Digital Catapult's purpose is to accelerate early adoption of advanced digital technologies in the UK. We work across 4 key technology areas: future networks, immersive technologies, artificial intelligence, and future focus. And our work spans both the creative and manufacturing industries. We do this by building and operating physical and digital facilities around the country, designing and delivering national innovation programs, and convening and collaborating on research and development. Our unique position really allows us to work with universities, SMEs, corporates, and industries. And we run a series of national innovation programs, such as the Machine Intelligence Garage, Creative XR, which is our immersive content accelerator, Augmentor, which is hopefully you guys, and the 5G testbed programs. So this kind of diverse support given to the UK immersive startups is really mirrored by the diverse output of the immersive ecosystem. You know, we've got hugely complex, large-scale, cutting-edge audience demonstrators, to business as usual use of VR headsets in the public sector for training, increasing implementations of immersive technology in the design process, to hyper-realistic avatars powered by AI. This increasing interest in the viability of cross-technology research work is something that we've been really excited about at the Catapult recently. And, you know, layering up those technology layers of AI with 5G and immersive is really exciting for us. And I think that we shouldn't be discouraged about the challenges immersive has been facing, especially due to the pandemic, because I think it's really accelerated interest in a lot of areas. For example, haptic technologies for touchless interfaces, and really fast-tracked the use of XR technologies in the medical space. You know, trials that would perhaps have taken 2 years in a normal environment have gone through in a number of weeks. So those opportunities for immersive, I think, are really fantastic. And I think that it's going to continue to open up new and surprising ways to engage and really democratize what really has been a really kind of high barrier to entry in our sector. So I think that all of these are leading and stepping stones to better immersive experiences and hopefully a stronger immersive presence in the UK. So we're really thrilled to have everybody here with us today, and I'm really looking forward to hearing the fireside chats and also hearing everybody's questions. Handing back over to Leah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this, Jessica. So for all of the new joiners, once again, my name is Leah and I run the Augmentor program at Digital Catapult. As the lead of the Augmentor Acceleration Program, I'm privileged to work with some of the most amazing and inspiring immersive founders, much like these ones in this photo. And over the next couple of minutes, I'll explain better why Augmentor exists, who it serves, and also go through the details of how it supports the cohort startups and connects them with the wider ecosystem. I'll kick off this presentation with a question. What are some of the biggest challenges that startup founders face when launching their businesses? We all know that path to success includes numerous challenges, but today I really wish to highlight the most common ones. Starting with money, or better yet, the lack of it. We know that founders need financial resources in order to support their businesses and product development. The next one is an obvious one as well, and it sort of connects with the latter. Customers. Finding prospects, turning them into leads, and then converting them into clients is not an easy task, especially when launching new products in unfamiliar markets. And the last challenge I'll wish to mention today is related to management. Execution is key to success. And planning ahead, prioritizing, setting business direction, building processes is what makes those founder dreams a reality. And at Augmentor, we're not only aware of all of these challenges that founders face, but also of the challenges that are specific to the immersive ecosystem. Challenges such as poor awareness of return on investment on immersive applications or lack of investors' confidence. So Augmentor won't give you money and customers on the plate, but we will surely equip you with the best possible strategies and experts that will help you achieve success. Augmentor was set up specifically to address those challenges that I just mentioned and to help startups achieve greater investment readiness and commercial readiness. And to really drive forward the immersive adoption in the market, Augmentor also works with other stakeholders besides the startups in the ecosystem. We help industry players understand the potential of immersive technologies by showcasing the possible solutions, your solutions, and the talented teams behind it. And then we also work with the investment community where we educate and inspire industry agnostic investors to start investing in the immersive field. Augmentor is an acceleration program for B2B early stage immersive startups. And this means that we specifically work with startups that are at the beginning of their business journeys. However, at the phase of at least a working prototype, and startups that haven't raised more than £500,000 in private investment. If you never raised equity investment before, this program is most likely for you. Besides that, we specifically work with immersive companies, so the ones that are developing AR, VR, MR, haptics, and even some 3D applications. So at this point, you're probably wondering, how does all that translate into the actual benefits for the startups? We offer support through these main activities: mentorship, workshops, funding strategy, partnerships, facilities, and network access. And now let's take a closer look at each of these. We truly believe in the power of knowledge sharing. We bring external experts to the program due to their specific skill set so they can help you, the startups, face the challenges and navigate your journeys. Mentorship was actually recognized as one of the most beneficial offers of the program, and for many, as for example for Christoph, was a crucial moment. At Augmentor, we really strive to connect each startup with one mentor that has an investment, business, and technical background. And this year, for the first time, we also wish to connect all of the startups with mentors that are specific to their markets. We work in a very similar way in our workshops, where we bring partners on board the program that help us deliver these impactful sessions. Our workshops focus on a variety of topics, ranging from business strategy, investment, sales and growth, theme and culture, and design, for example. And we always also try to make this as practical as possible so you can start applying the knowledge tomorrow. Since this is also an investment-focused accelerator, we've designed it in a way to help you understand the funding landscape, so you can figure out the best options for you, and so we can help you build the infrastructure to start fundraising. Whilst we don't invest in the startups ourselves, we connect them with the wider investment community and also organize office hour with over 15 VC and angel firms so you can meet and speak with them face to face. My colleague, Julia, who you will meet later on in this webinar, is also responsible for running our investment engagement strategy. So she will be there to support you in building your fundraising strategy and coach you on how to work with investors. And since everybody likes perks, we also have some ready for you. You can expect to benefit from partners such as AWS, HubSpot, and Seed Legals, alongside their expertise support. Relationship building has a tremendous power. We know that and always try to connect our startups to pertinent people in our networks. On this slide, you can see some of the entities Digital Catapult works with. We can help you establish direct relationships with universities, enterprises, and government, for example. And lastly, we also give you access to our Immersive lab so you can test your solution or pitch your idea to clients and investors. I guess that at this point, it is also only right to mention COVID-19 impact. We're aware of the changes in the investment landscape, and we are aware of the impact that some industries suffered. So for that reason, we decided to slightly adapt the program. Firstly, we'll deliver the program on a remote basis and try to offer bespoke support wherever we can. Besides that, we'll diversify investors and funding opportunities on board the program. This means that you can expect to hear about R&D funding, loans, and not only private investment. We'll also focus our workshops on business pivoting and HR topics so you can adapt to the new normal and, for example, know how to hire remotely. And then we'll also extend the access to our immersive labs for after the program. And since we're also aware that it's harder to stay connected and social nowadays, we'll organize peer-to-peer online gatherings and other communication forums so you can keep interacting and keep being engaged with your cohort colleagues. You're probably also wondering who helps us deliver on these wonderful benefits. Well, besides our internal teams that have both investment and technical expertise, we rely heavily on our partners and mentors. Our industry partners, for example, help with commercial education and making your business operations smoother and cheaper. VC partners, on another hand, help us with investment education and preparation. And actually many of them, such as HTC Vive or Extension Ventures, also end up investing into the cohort startups. So last but not least to mention, we have our incredible hand-picked mentors that are there to help you with one-on-one support on problem solving, decision-making, and testing out new strategies. And because actions speak louder than our words, or better yet, numbers speak louder than our words, let's also take a look at the impact that we had so far. We already ran 3 cohorts where we helped accelerate 26 early stage startups in total. Of all of these startups, the vast majority never raised investment before. However, after their involvement in the program, they were able to secure £6.5 million in private investment and £1.4 million in grants. And at this point, I also wish to mention that the cohort of last 10 startups only recently concluded, and they're still currently in processes of closing their investment round. And as numbers can only tell as much, I also wanted to share some feedback from the 3 alumni startups. Gravity Sketch was a part of our cohort number 1, and they developed a 3D design platform for teams to create and collaborate in VR. They highlighted how we helped them secure their investment round. Similarly, HoloMe, a startup from cohort number 2 that delivers self-service 3D human holograms, benefited from the branding association with the program, which impacted their positioning. And lastly, Artificial Artist, a part of cohort 3 that are developing a virtual production studio in the cloud. So immense value in network connections to both industry and investment communities. So in order to get the same sort of support that our alumni startups got, you first have to submit your application. Our open call is running until July 29th, and after that, the selection phase will follow. To give you a clear idea of the program rollout, let's just take a look at this timeline for a second. As you can see, our open call closes in July, and the selection is finalized in early September. Then the rest of the month is reserved for contracting and onboarding startups. The actual program delivery with workshops and continuous mentorship starts in October and runs all the way through to January 2021, when we celebrate your progress with a big demo day. So to wrap up my presentation, what makes Augmentor program special and different from other existing accelerators? Firstly is our immersive specific focus. And then it's also our targeted product market fit and investment support. And another thing that really sets us apart is how Digital Catapult relationship and support continue even after the program. In many cases, we end up collaborating with startups on our R&D and commercial projects. And lastly, what differentiates the program is also access to the network of amazing immersive peers that face challenges similar to yours and that will be there to support you on your immersive journey. But the ones who can really truly speak about the real value of the program are the individuals that were already a part of it. In the next 30 minutes, these marvelous people will take over the virtual stage. Firstly, we will help Christoph speak about his startup experience in Augmentor, and then we'll also hear it from our investment partner, Dave Haynes from HTC Vive. And we'll finish off our fireside chat with a conversation about mentorship together with our mentor, Nelly, and alumni mentee startup founder, Kate. So at this point, I'll just stop sharing my screen and I'll ask Christoph to join me on this webinar stage. And I believe that you can already see and hear Christoph clearly.
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Yeah, great. So I guess, Christoph, welcome and thank you for joining us for this conversation. I'll just do a very brief intro and introduce you to the attendees. So Christoph is actually a co-founder of Body Swaps, a virtual reality social skills learning platform. And his team was actually a part of Augmentor Cohort 2 back in 2018. I guess with a product that is quite different to what is Body Swaps nowadays. And Christoph, I'm sure that the audience would love to know more about what you do and how was your experience in the program. But let's start with the basics. So could you maybe tell us a bit more about yourself and also about Body Swaps?
Yeah, sure. So firstly, just for everyone, this is not my living room, unfortunately. This is the lobby of the Body Swaps platform. I'm not that rich yet, so don't get your hopes up too much with Augmentor. So I'm the co-founder of Body Swaps. I've been in London for 10 years and in VR for 5 years. And what Body Swaps really is it's a spin-off, effectively, of an agency that we had called Somewhere Else, which was looking at marketing and storytelling. And so when we came to Augmentor 2 years ago, we were actually Somewhere Else, and Body Swaps only came later. And Body Swaps is a soft skills VR platform. But I guess what we can talk today is about how Augmentor was what transformed us from Somewhere Else, an immersive marketing agency, into later on, a year, 2 years down the line, into a SaaS model based platform for soft skills training, which is very, very different from where we were.
Yeah, I guess let's go a bit more in depth into that. So let's try to rewind a little and let's go back to 2017, 2018. So what is happening at that point?
Yeah, so at that point, we called Somewhere Else. We're an agency. We're working with Samsung, with Adidas, with the Champions League. It's very fun. It's also not really sustainable as a business model to be chasing the next client and then delivering, then chasing. And we randomly got a first project. So it was our first B2B project. And it was essentially a VR university to learn about lean manufacturing, sexy topic, through immersive case study. So it had nothing to do with soft skills or technical skills. It was really more about spatializing knowledge to make it more interesting and memorable. And so we were doing that for one client on a kind of time and material basis. But we said, wait, the classes that we give in that virtual university are specific to that client, but the university that we created has scalable potential. And so it's with the idea of scaling or making something out of that VR university that we had created, that we entered Augmentor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm interested in what got you to that point of, well, trying to switch from the agency to then this university model, and then also sort of to pivot your idea in a way to the VR social skills learning platform.
Well, I mean, to be completely honest, when we entered Augmentor, we're just like, hey, does this program exist? Let's give it a try. Let's take that client project and see if we can build it into another company. It didn't go any further than that, to be honest, where we were. What happened at Augmentor is we didn't raise first. 2, we realized our product was effectively completely unsellable. And 3, my personal hero, who was also a mentor at Augmentor, a researcher called Mel Slater, looked at what we did and say, it looks very beautiful, but that's not the best you can do with the medium of VR. And so based on all of that, we took a new direction. We built a first prototype that was going to become later body swaps, then a second prototype, got feedback from people that said, and those prototypes were for client specific. So time and material, quite expensive, long to develop. And then we got feedback that, hey, if you had a SaaS model, if you had a library of off-the-shelf simulations that you sell on a license basis, then you could expand the number of clients who buy it. And so to build that, you need time, and because you need time, you need money. And so last summer, we got an Innovate UK grant that was backed by a private investment from HTC, and Dave is going to talk in a few minutes. And finally, months ago, we released the first version of that platform. So that's, yeah, the whole journey.
Mm-hmm. I guess returning back to Augmentor and your involvement, because in a way it sort of shifted the direction for you guys, for your team. So what was the biggest value that you find in the program itself? You already mentioned the mentorship bit. So was there like anything else, or maybe, you know, also how was that mentorship? You know, what did it happen? What was so magical about it?
For me, the biggest value was learning, and it wasn't obvious at first because we knew nothing about the startup world. So we were probably be coming into that program in a more beginner stage than most. And for me, it was just I saw it as it was in the summer back in 2018. I saw it as a summer university. I learned about legal. I learned about investments. I learned how to tell a story. I learned about design thinking. I learned that you could work with universities and how to do that. And so that for me was the biggest impact. And I think what was great with the mentors is it was a different type of conversations. You're not trying to convince investor. You're not trying to impress client. You were there to ask everything. And I think the best advice maybe on that point is don't be afraid to look stupid. If you come in Augmentor to just sell something, you're not going to get a lot of value. The best value you can get is from asking a lot of questions from anyone you're going to meet.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. I guess if you would to recommend Augmentor to another startup founder, so what would you highlight?
I think I would highlight the human side of things, and the fact that even though that's what most people do, is like you can't, if you see a Augmentor just as an opportunity to raise money, it's probably the wrong way to approach it. It's more an opportunity to know how to tell your story so that you can then meet people to raise money. And I would highlight the fact that you should really do it fully. Try to make the most out of it. Go to every day, and everyone is busy, and spending a full day in King's Cross every other week seemed like a lot, but it was clearly the best way to spend my days back then.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Yeah, thank you for that. I guess let's now try to return a little bit to the present moment. And you've already mentioned how you recently raised this grant and also an investment round with HTC Vive. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, and maybe highlight any tips that you would have for startups that are seeking to raise investment?
So our first investment was a bit peculiar because it was a Innovate UK grant that was 70-30. So 70% public money, 30% private investor. And only if you had a private investor would you get the public money. And so the private investor was HTC. The one tip I have on that is, especially if you're going to apply for a grant, work with people whose job it is to apply for grants. It will cost you a bit of money, but trust me, Innovate UK has a secret language when it comes to grants that can be absolutely counter-intuitive. And we had to juggle between telling the story to investors of, hey, we're going to make a lot of money and we're ready for market, and telling the stories to Innovate UK, which is, well, unless we have public money, we're never going to make money. And so it's almost like completely schizophrenic way to approach things. You need to be open with both investors and get the help of grant consultants.
Yeah. And I guess, how does also one arrive to that point, that sort of like what made you decide to go for this type of investment?
I wish I could answer that there was a very well thought out long-term strategy, but I don't think it was the case. Is, hey, look, we can get, £300,000 provided that we sell our ID well. And so it wasn't so much like choosing that investment, but rather doing it at the right time, which was, we had enough to show in terms of a prototype and a vision to convince people. So yeah, it wasn't too early to do it, I guess.
Yeah, that's such a valid point. I guess timing is really one of the main factors that one should also consider when like planning for their fundraising strategy, really. And I guess this is also one of the learnings that one learns through their entrepreneurship or founder journey. And since we're quite tight on time today, I guess, would you have any, biggest learnings or challenges that you would like to share with the attendees, and that you believe they would find it useful?
Yes, 2 points. One is lead with the problem, not the technology. That's the hardest thing, because we're all obsessed about our product and what it can do, and people really don't care. So if you can express a problem for your stakeholder and always lead with that problem, that's really helpful. And the second thing is just get help. Like, there are so many people out there who will know better than you, on marketing, on investment, on grants, on technology. And yeah, I would say just reach out to people, be completely candid. Don't be afraid to look stupid. Don't try to impress, and people will help you, because that's just what humans do when you're nice to them, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, and I guess just to really finish it off, again, touching upon your mentorship involvement and the learnings from there, do you also have any tips on how to guide that in the best possible way to really get the value out of it?
Maybe rather than trying to talk to every mentor, try to have an approach, again, a problem-led. What's your problem, and who do you think is best a position to help you? And rather than have 1 hour with 50 mentors, it's better to have like 10 hours with 5, and build really long-term relationships so they can go deep into what you're trying to achieve and really provide value.
Okay, cool. Christoph, I'm afraid that we have to wrap up our conversation at this point, but thank you for sharing all of this very useful information. We will be switching off for our next conversation, but we will be back in 20 minutes for the Q&A panel. So to the attendees, if you have any questions that you would like for Christoph to answer, please make sure to leave it in the Q&A box below. So at this point, I'll hand over the moderation to Julia. Julia is our Digital Catapult Investment Engagement Manager, and she will, I guess, introduce herself a bit better and also introduce our next speaker. So Julia, over to you.
Thanks a lot for the intro, Leah. Caught a bit on spot there because I wasn't planning to necessarily introduce myself But as Leah mentioned, I'm running the investment strategy at Digital Catapult, which is a combination of working very closely with the investment community and bringing them as either mentors or partners or on programs, and to kind of get to meet the companies that we're working with. As well as working very closely with our startups on supporting them understand the landscape, help them build their investment strategy, and obviously connecting them with the investment community. And on that note, for the next 10 minutes, and if Dave, you don't mind coming in camera, that would be great. We're going to chat with Dave Haynes, who's an investor partner on Augmentor. He is heading up HTC's ViveX in Europe, focusing on investment in immersive technologies. So Dave, could you give us a quick intro to your role at HTC Vive and shed a light on the state of the immersive investment ecosystem in the UK and Europe as well?
Yeah, so hi, welcome, and yeah, thanks to all the attendees for joining. I hope I can be informative, and yeah, please leave any questions in the chat. So to introduce myself, I'm Dave Haynes. I've been at HTC for around 3 years now, depending how you count it. And my role here is two things. First of all, I head up ViveX for EMEA, so Europe and Middle East. And ViveX is a $100 million investment program that we set up all the way back in 2016, just as we were launching Vive products to what was a very new market at the time, with the goal to invest in the ecosystem. And we've now invested in, I think, over 100 companies. So that's kept us busy. I also work on developer ecosystem with a slight focus on enterprise. So that's interfacing with anyone in Europe who is kind of building content applications and solutions on the Vive platform for our headsets. So that's me. Previous to this, actually, my first kind of interaction with Augmentor was at its inception. So before HTC, I worked at Camp, which is a successful seed stage fund here in Europe. And actually, so the Augmentor program was a co-creation between Camp and Digital Catapult. So we were both looking at ways to support the VR ecosystem. I'd led a couple of deals, including a company called The Wave VR in VR, and I was kind of surprised that there wasn't more early stage companies coming through in this space. It seemed like in Europe, there was a lot of talent, but they were all kind of working on agency jobs or working in larger companies, and so part of the goal of Augmentor was really to give the confidence for people to go and make that first step and make a company in this space as it grew.
Thanks a lot for that, Dave. And yeah, as Dave mentioned, he's been involved in the program for the beginning. So if you could tell us a bit more about like how your experience was and how you've worked with startups like in the past 3 years, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, at Augmentor specifically, obviously first year was very involved in just kind of helping with the program and coordinating mentors and things like that. And then in the next few programs, it was really just as a partner through HTC and ViveX. So we've actually, I mean, it's been a great partnership. We've invested in 3 companies now, I think. First program, we didn't invest, but I was quite close to the Gravity Sketch guys and did a lot of work just introducing them to investors. Then we invested in a company called Kaganova, which I think was batch cohort 2, I think.
Yep, correct.
And we invested in them, and then they were able to attract follow-on funding from people like AI Seed and a few other angel investors, and also some Innovate money. Then it was funny because, as Christoph mentioned, we met them during, I think it was the second program or maybe the third, but they actually they really used the program to actually figure out what they were doing. So we didn't invest there, but that was the first touch point that we had with the company. And then we stayed in touch for at least a year, maybe a year and a half, and then took the opportunity to invest, a bit further down the line when they'd really gone through the Augmentor progress and really figured out what to focus on. And then most recently, with the recent batch, we're currently concluding an investment in a company called Image Reality, which is a VR collaboration space specifically focused on the oil and gas and adjacent sectors.
Thanks a lot for that. And then just to kind of go back into, you know, early stage investment in immersive companies, what would you say are the sort of like kind of main barriers there?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, there's always barriers for founders raising money. You know, it's not an easy process. It can be a full-time job. It's you know, like as a founder, you have to really kind of, you know, love and embrace the fundraising process, or else it can kind of it can get you down. But I think if you look specifically at the immersive technology, you know, you have another kind of issue to solve, which is, I think, you know, VR and AR has, you know, kind of it has a bit of a kind of almost a perception problem, you know, similar to many new technologies that go through this, you know, kind of hype curve that we all know and love. 2016, 2017, there was a lot of money poured into the space. You know, we were very active. A lot of other corporates were active, but also a lot of the traditional VCs were putting a lot of money into this space based on analyst forecasts. And I think, you know, if the analyst forecasts were based on, you know, sales of Google Cardboard and Samsung Gears, and they almost seem a bit silly now that we look back. So I think the problem was that actually, ironically, you know, the sector has actually grown. You know, I mean, it's amazing where we are now. You know, companies can really build revenues both on the consumer side and the enterprise side. But I think investors maybe got a little bit burnt in that early phase, and they're very kind of timid coming back, and they read the articles saying, you know, is this a VR winter, and is VR dead? And I think there's a lot of misinformation, and it's frankly, it's just easier for an investor to, you know, like pass and not take the risk and not look stupid at investment committee than maybe take a risk. So I think, you know, the first tip I would give is really, you know, when you are out fundraising, really go and do your research, like qualify the investors. It's like any sales process. Like you know, you shouldn't be out selling, you know, fire to the Eskimos. That's not a saying, but but you see what I mean. You know, when you go and speak with the investors, just gauge their interest for the space. And there's some that are just like, you know, we're not investing. The quicker you can rule those people out, the better, and then focus on the people where you think you can convince them. A couple of other things, I think, you know, even with the investors where they do have belief or they're open to making investments in the space, really as an investor, you're thinking about when's the right time. So you may believe in the technology, but you know, you might be investing in a enterprise training company at a very different time that you would be investing in a consumer social platform. So taking the time to really point out, you know, why this is the right timing. And then also crucially, if this isn't the right timing, like what's your backup strategy? So, you know, we when I was at C-Camp, we invested in a company called The Wave, which was a social music platform. You know, the challenge there was we had a great product, but, you know, it was very early for social VR. We were able to get 1,000 people into VR, you know, simultaneously, but it was, you know, that wasn't exciting investors. So they actually had a very clear strategy to kind of pivot onto other platforms and kind of get through this stage. And they've actually just recently raised a 30 million round. So they've navigated that very well. And then the last challenge is, how do you show an investor a product? Like that's always very difficult without COVID. Like actually, you know, a lot of investors, they may have used VR once or twice. You know, they may not have a HoloLens or an HTC Vive or whatever it is you're building for. So you really need to think through what materials you can do or how you can get them into a place. So I think that's one benefit of Augmentor, is that, you know, you have access to the immersive lab to actually do those kind of, you know, demos to investors. But it's especially difficult during COVID. You know, we can't actually access some of those spaces. People might be hesitant to put headsets on. So really think about how you can show through videos, or, you know, and then also when you do show your product, how do you show your product in the best way? Like, you know, again, at The Wave, when they were raising their round after hours, they actually built their pitch deck in their product. So they would only pitch investors when they went into the product, and they built a special build and that really kind of brought out the best, and that was super effective. So yeah, so there's many barriers, but I think there's ways to mitigate each of those challenges if you're doing the right thing.
I was just about to say that, because you've done a great job of sort of like kind of combining both, which is like, this is the challenge, but this is sort of like kind of how you can get around it. Thanks a lot for that. So just because we have two more minutes left of the conversation before we're moving to the next one, I guess, and as a sort of like kind of conclusion, why would you advise companies to join the Augmentor program? And so like kind of follow on that, how would you advise them to approach the investor partners and mentors on the program as well?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I think why should you join the Augmentor program? I mean, there's lots of obvious stuff, right? I mean, it's good to have the introductions to investors. That takes a lot of work out of the first introductions. You obviously have to do a lot of work after that, but it is a nice way to start the dating process, shall we say. Obviously there's some fantastic mentors, and I'm hoping that we'll see some more kind of industry experts and industry specific mentors get added to the fantastic group of mentors that there is already. But actually I think one of the best things is maybe an indirect, it's not obvious, but I think a program like Augmentor, just committing to show up and do the work, it's as soon as you're accepted, there's some level of validation, like, right, we're onto something. But actually being able to working to a timeline, bringing your team along that journey and being able to commit. Like if you, I think Chris from Body Swaps is a great example. They came onto the program, and then, it really helped to kind of say, right, we're committed to this, and we're going to figure out, the product that we're building and how it's going to scale. So, so I think that the benefits are obvious, but actually just the process of doing it itself, even if you didn't show up to any of the workshops, or, even if you only listened to a couple of the mentors, there's still value in doing that. And then I think also that the thing is, like, the people who I see get the most out of these programs are the ones that come to it with a kind of a pull, not a push strategy. If you think, oh, well, Augmentor's just going to push me in front of the right mentors, and they're going to give me this, and like if I go there, they're just going to work hard to kind of make me successful, like, you're not going to get as much out of it. So you really have to kind of dig in as a founder and see how you can pull the best resources, like, be asking Julia, be asking your mentors, be asking Leah, like getting the most out of it. And if you're able to do that, they'll be able to give it back, but it needs to come from you.
Thanks a lot for that, Dave. And for the audience, we will have Dave back in 10 minutes for the Q&A session. So we're now moving to our next quick fireside chat. But in the meantime, please do pop all the questions that you have for any of the sessions in the Q&A box. So we're now welcoming Nelly, who's a partner at Bethnal Green Ventures, which is Europe's leading early stage tech for good fund, backing founders that tackle big social and environmental problems. And we're also going to have Kate Parkinson, who's the co-founder of also known as a startup that is using immersive cutting edge VR technology and storytelling to develop experiences that will allow journalists to stay calm and make the right decisions in high pressure situations. So do we have Kate on board as well? Yes, awesome. So I'm just going to start with you, Nelly. It would be great to hear more about what you do and how you got involved in the program.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone, and thanks again for having me on this webinar. So as Julia said, I'm a partner at Bethnal Green Ventures. I sit on the investment team and specialize in the kind of portfolio support part of our fund, including kind of doing a lot of the things that Julia and Leah do, which is managing our mentor network and kind of working really closely with our portfolio to ensure that they get all the support that they need, not only through our own accelerator program that we run, but also after they kind of graduate from the program, staying in touch with them and supporting them as we can. We at BGV are really interested in tech for good. Tech is quite a wide range, so we're tech agnostic. So VR is definitely something that we've invested in before and will do in the future. But we're very interested in the impact side of things as well as the commercial opportunity. So our impact themes are better society, stuff like education, but also civic engagement, stuff like that, healthy lives and sustainable planet. And I got involved at Augmentor. I mean, I met Julia at a lovely dinner, and then she asked me to be a mentor on the program, and I gladly accepted. And it also kind of led to me meeting Kate and Ella, the founders of Also Known As, who we actually ended up investing in after the program. So we developed a really great relationship during, and they're doing really great things, very impactful. I'll let Kate talk to you more about that. But so yeah, really happy to be here.
Thanks a lot for that, Nelly. Turning to you, Kate, because we'd love to obviously get an intro to what you do and also known as well, but also to kind of get a better understanding of, like, you know, how you ended up deciding to apply and then joined your mentor program, and what was the process on your side around that.
I think you gave a pretty good introduction of what we do. Yeah, also known as, founded by myself and my co-founder Ella. We're both former journalists and are now working in immersive technology to build immersive experiences that empower and protect journalists. So that's the product, and that's sort of a bit of the background. How we came to Augmentor, actually we're sort of part of the Digital Catapult family and had been in the Creative XR program the year before. Oh gosh, time all blends into one. I think it was the year before, or earlier that year, and we found out about Augmentor, and we're starting to see that what we were doing, because our background is journalists and storytellers, we very much came at this as we've got a great idea and we know there's a need for it, but we weren't necessarily thinking about it as a business. And Augmentor was attractive to us because we could see that all the things that we needed to know about how to structure a business and how to scale our product offering and how to attract investment and how to talk to investors was going to be invaluable as part of the program. So we applied. We're very happy to have been accepted. It was a very intense program, as I'm sure anyone who takes part in it can attest to. You're kind of drinking from the fire hose, like every week, just more and more information being absorbed. I would echo a lot of things that Christoph said about the program, but one thing that I would add as one of the most valuable parts, obviously the mentors were hugely valuable, and as Nelly said, she was one of our mentors, and we're absolutely thrilled that relationship has continued beyond the program. But before we talk a bit more about mentors, I just want to mention that the other people in the cohort, the peers, we really found it very valuable to be interacting on a regular basis with people who were at similar stages to us and facing similar problems to us, and found that peer support was really useful, and actually have regular catch-ups now with people who were in the cohort, you know, just to catch up on what everyone's doing, what the problems are, anything we can do to help and support each other. So yeah, that was definitely a big benefit.
Thanks a lot for that, Kate. It's indeed quite exciting to see how you folks, like the cohort companies, you know, kept in touch afterwards, and the support that you're offering to each other. Going back to I guess the way we connected you and Nelly through the program last year, which was by far one of the best matches, I would say, because you both ended up like not just BGV investing in also known as, but you've built a long-standing relationship. So it would be great if you could tell us a bit more about, like, how you shaped and structured that mentor-mentee relationship, and just kind of go a bit into what worked, what didn't, and so, like, kind of, I guess, piece of advice is for you know, for the founders that will join the program on, like, how to better shape that as well.
I can give a little bit from my side, and then Nelly, I'd be interested to hear your perspective. We got a lot of mentors as part of the Augmentor program, but I think, echoing what Christoph said, having, oh, my computer seems to want to restart. I'm going to cancel that. Echoing a little bit what Christoph said, having more time with less mentors is better than having many hours with more. So we really, you know, found the ones that worked for us, and the ones that were really helping us with very specific problems. And one of the things that we found really invaluable with Nelly, as I said, you know, the program, you're taking on a lot, and we often likened it to drinking from the fire hose. It's like each week there was a big new topic and a whole lot of information, and Nelly really helped us sort of pull out the bits that were useful to our company, and helped us with some frameworks and goal setting. Nelly's a big fan of goal setting, and we are now too. And she really helped us hold ourselves accountable by going back week on week and saying, have you achieved this? Have you advanced this? What are the problems? What do you need help with?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely going to mention goal setting. Thanks, Kate, for setting that up. But yeah, I guess something that we see a lot with the teams on our program is that it is an overwhelming period. There's a lot of support available. It's very exciting, but very exhausting. And so I think one of the ways I approach kind of mentoring when I mentor on these external programs is to try and bring the startups back down to kind of like focus on, well, what's important for you right now, and how can you kind of make sense of all of the support to get the most out of it during this great period. And I think Kate and Ella just jumped on that straight away. We went through several, again, goal setting frameworks to understand, okay, well, what can you feasibly achieve in the 12 weeks of the program? Because you won't manage to do everything. And it's much better to have kind of achievable goals and understand how you're going to get there than just trying to sort of do everything at once. And so we really checked in on those goals each week, and Kate and Ella got into the habit of setting an agenda ahead of time, sending me work beforehand when they wanted feedback on it, which was really useful. And that's a sort of side tip, I guess, that I would tell everyone, like mentors, you know, are usually doing it on a voluntary basis. So try and make the most out of the time that you have with them. And it's sort of you can do that by setting an agenda and setting things ahead of time, but really being clear on what you want out of the support, so you get the best out of it and they also have a good experience mentoring. So that worked really well, I think. And another thing I would say is people like you, Leah, and I might say myself as well, our job is a big part of our job is connecting people. I'll say it, we're super connectors, and we know a lot of people in the industry. And if you leave a good impression, like Kate and Ella did, and if you kind of really work well with the mentors, they will connect you to other people that can help you in your venture. And that's something that you can take advantage of as the program goes.
Thanks a lot for that, both. And I guess to just kind of conclude on this conversation, I don't know, like kind of any sort of like if you were to think of, again, both on how you shaped the relationship throughout the program, but also like, you know, on how you sort of like kind of ended up working together afterwards. Any sort of like kind of what was the most important thing?
I'd just like to add one more thing, Yulia, before we go into that, because although our relationship with Nelly continued and we were really lucky, it happened very smoothly. We finished Augmentor sort of at the end of January. We applied for BGV in February. We got accepted. We started their course, so we rolled on. So our mentorship with Nelly has continued, you know, ever since day one, really. But also we have ongoing relationships with other mentors that we met in the program that's much more on a casual basis. And I think this is a little bit sort of echoing what Christoph and Dave both said. If you come into the program not expecting that everybody's just going to give you stuff, but being willing to ask for stuff, that we find this community to be very supportive, very collaborative. And if you're targeted about asking the right questions to the right people, people can be incredibly generous. So I would, to any of the people listening who are thinking about applying, it's, you know, be upfront about what you want and speak to people. Like Nelly just said, you guys are super connectors, and there are people out there that are really willing to help small companies like ours and rooting for us to succeed.
Yeah, the one thing, I'm not really sure how to go about that, but I guess there's something, and this is what I tell all the teams that come through our program that meet some of our mentors, is kind of leaving a good impression and thanking people for the work that they kind of do for you and the feedback that they give you. And I'm not saying, you know, Kate and Ella did that plenty, and they have again, and it does make a difference, but it's also, I would say, like, always do that if you're able. I know you can't follow up with every single person that has supported you, but if you have a newsletter that you send to people using your product, but keep mentors in the loop. Who knows, they might be angel investors, they might want to be your next CTO. It's just really leaving that good impression, taking every opportunity that you have to network, and keeping those relationships alive and showing gratitude is such a huge, important part of being a founder, because you can't go at this alone. You'll need a lot of support. And that's a really good way to show how grateful you are that people are supporting you.
Thanks a lot for that, both. And I'd like to actually love to invite the other panelists back for the Q&A session now. If awesome, we have Christoph back online, Dave, Leah. And I'll first start with one quick question, turning to Christoph for that. Just because you mentioned the Innovate UK grants, one of our attendees was asking, like, what was the particular process there? What grant did you apply for? And I guess if you have some sort of like kind of piece of advice, apart from, like, you know, making sure that you work with a company that supports you for that, like any other sort of like kind of feedback on it.
So it was called the Immersive Tech Accelerator, I believe. I don't know if they're doing it again, to be honest. I haven't checked, and it was a little bit of a peculiar one, as I explained. That said, in terms of advice, there are a lot of grants around, and some focus on the technology and accelerating a specialized technological sector. Some focus on the purpose. So we just got another grant around vocational training. So we're using our technology to improve vocational training, but the grant is for vocational training, regardless of the technology. And so I really invite you to do your research in terms of what's available out there, because sometimes the grants are from companies that you wouldn't expect to have something like this.
Can I just jump in? I don't want to completely contradict you there, Christoph. We have an Innovate Smart grant. We've had 3 grants from Innovate now. And I have to say, I think you should write your own applications because I don't think anybody knows your project or your product as well as you do. But Christoph is right, there is an art to it and there's a language, and you kind of have to crack that. You can go either way. If you've got the funds to bring in someone to do it, then by all means go for a grant application, you know, service. If you don't, and you do it the way that we did it, which is doing it yourself, then there are organizations like KTN who are there to support people while they're writing these applications, and they do it for free, and they will read over your applications and give you guidance beforehand. So there is support, but fundamentally I believe,
I'm 100% with you, Kate, and it's good because I didn't make it precise. We didn't get anyone to write it for us, so we wrote it, and we had a consultant who worked with us for a total of 2 days, I believe, and she looked at it first and she was like, this doesn't make sense, this is what they're looking for, reorganize that. But obviously when it comes to telling your story, especially around technology that might be complex, you should try and tell your own story.
Just one thing on the grants. You know, sometimes it can be difficult to know where to look for them. I've found that so that there's an industry trade body that hopefully all of you have heard of called Immerse UK. I'll need to get the URL, but if you just type in Immerse UK, you'll find it. You can just sign up for their free newsletter, but then I'd also highly recommend becoming a member of Immerse UK because there's just a huge amount of resource, webinars, content. But one thing they do is they put out regular emails that have links to the grant funding, and then because Immerse UK is part of the KTN, they're also very, very open to kind of helping people and pointing people in the right direction, and even proofreading grants. So it's a big plug, but it's a no-brainer. Go to Immerse UK and sign up as a member. If you can't, then obviously I think it's only £99 or something. If not, just join their free newsletter. But it's a really helpful resource that everyone should know about.
I actually also have something to add on here, because we're doing some changes to the program, of course. So Immersive UK is actually one of our partners, and they will be delivering a specific session. So as I said and mentioned in the presentation, we're going to be doing way more of R&D opportunities on the program. So there will be a workshop where our internal teams from Digital Catapult will be speaking about how the whole work, the whole world of R&D works. And then we're also going to have Immersive UK joining us to specifically highlight the open calls or the opportunities that are out there and that are pertinent to you. And once again, we're going to have the one-on-one support from Immersive UK as well. So they will be bringing their teams on the program, and they will sort of sit down together with you and go through the application or through the grant that you actually wish to apply for. And they will highlight, the most pertinent bits.
Thanks a lot all for that. Just because we're running a bit out of time and we have a close shot for like 12:15, would you be able to and that could I guess it's a question for both Leah and the mentors involved in the program. Besides having an MVP, how much traction / product market fit should startups already have before applying to the program? And the reason why, again, it's a question for both you, Dave, and Nelly as well, is because you were both involved in that sort of kind of selection process. So I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah, I'm happy to share I guess I'll share a little bit of our selection process at BGV and what we've seen in terms of where you need to be as a company to get the most out of the support. We are really interested in early stage teams. Our model is that we get in really early and then we reinvest in teams as they grow and as they grow successful. We're really looking for, so generally it's pre-product, pre-revenue, you've got an MVP, you've started testing it with users, and there's early indications that the solution is meeting the needs of the end users and having the impact that it's looking to have. We're also looking for teams generally, and I think it's the same on the Augmentor program, that have started having conversations with customers, people that will actually pay for their product. It can sometimes be a letter of intent from a potential pilot partner. It can sometimes be early revenues, for example, or indications, evidence that people are willing to pay. But we're really always looking for founders, and I think every investor is that have that real commercial mindset. For us, the impact and commercial mindset is kind of valued at the same kind of rank. Looking for that. So yeah, I mean, we're very early stage, so I'm sure Dave will have a different answer to that, and you guys as well, but that's kind of how we approach it.
Yeah, I think for ViveX, when we're investing, and I didn't mention this earlier, but we invest up to about 150K in kind of early stage companies. We typically look for, if it's on the enterprise, it's really about having maybe 1 or 2 customers, just so you've got the product there. And I think that's, from our perspective, it's just that Vive can really help you. We don't like to just invest money, but also add a kind of strategic value add. So obviously at that point, we need a company that's mature enough that we can really go out and help to accelerate them. But I think with Augmentor, actually you can almost be a little bit earlier. It's good to have a product because there's something tangible to work on during the program. But I think, yeah, the Augmentor should give you a little bit more time to kind of get the story ready, to maybe find 1 or 2 of those first customers and then be ready to go out and raise around. Having said that, I would actually encourage later stage companies to go through the Augmentor process. I think there's, even if you've raised a seed round, and maybe would be looking for Series A afterwards, I don't know if Yulia and Leah would agree, but I think there's still a value add from the network and the support there. But it is geared up to help early stage startups.
Yeah,
I guess. Add to that, Yulia. Oh, sorry, Leah.
No, I mean, I'll be very brief, Kate, but just to add on top of what Nelly and Dave had already said, yeah, we're searching for early stage companies, yeah, but that does not mean just a company that has an idea of doing something cool. No, it has to be, I guess, a bit mature than that. We need as they've said, have something tangible that we can put in front of, potential clients or, potential investors. So like having a beta version of the product, I would say is sort of a minimum, or we're trying at least to get to that stage, because in the past we made some exceptions and we really discovered that the companies that actually benefit the most out of the program are the ones that are at, a later stage already.
I was just going to add for the people listening who are wondering whether they're right for this. When we came into the program, we very much questioned whether we were too early stage. And I remember having a conversation with Leah, just because there's so much talk about getting you investor ready, and there's people like Dave and Nelly on the selection committee, and when you do your pitching, and I remember having a call to Leah afterwards and said, I don't think we're right for the program because we're not at that stage. We had an MVP, we had market validation, we had a problem, we had a solution, we had the story, but all of the tick boxes that we knew investors would want, we still felt we were far away from. But that's what the program's really good at, because you start ticking off the boxes. And as we progressed through the program, we got closer and closer and closer. Very shortly after coming off the program, we got the investment from BGV, and we're now, our next milestone is to be at the end of the year to have enough customer traction to be doing a sizable pre-seed round. So even if you think you're really early stage and won't necessarily benefit from the program, you will.
Thanks everyone. I don't know, Christoph, if you want to add anything there from like your experience on the program.
For us, it was different. We thought we had a prototype, and we just realized it just wasn't the right idea. So that's completely different. So what we are Body Swaps, there was 0% of what we are today in what we entered this with. But we built a relationship with Dave, with other mentors, and we had the Eureka moment with one of the mentors there, and so that was immensely valuable. So if you can get in, don't worry about whether it's going to be your final product or not. You can always change your mind later.
And just because, again, we're running out of time, are we okay to take one more question, or shall we just kind of move into the conclusion? And I'm looking more at you, Christoph, because I know you have to run in a bit.
I have to catch a Eurostar, but I'm sure you can continue without me.
Thanks a lot for that, Christoph. Then in that case, just kind of moving to or asking the questions for the rest of the panel. I guess this is going to go to you, Leah, first, but then if the other people want to jump in on the mentoring stuff. So how do you select the mentors, and what is the process to be part of the program, like around that mentorship bit? And again, if afterwards, Dave, Nelly, and Kate, if you feel like you want to sort of like kind of add a little bit of touch around that, then by all means, feel free to.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Julia, for that question. So I guess it's not that easy to answer, because we do it sort of through two different ways, really. First, as I was saying in the presentation, we have that division. So we have investment support, we have business support, and we have technical support. So we look for individuals that have the skill set in those fields. So we know specifically if we're going for an investor, we want somebody from, either an angel investor or somebody that works at the big VC firms. So in that case, we specifically reach out to him after doing the homework ourselves first. So saying like, this is the ideal fit, we want him or we want her because she or he could bring that specific knowledge. And we also do it the other way around. So many times we receive referrals from people. So like, as we already said, we're quite well connected. And we receive contacts from, for example, Jessica receives it or I receive it. And if we see that referral is also a good fit to the program, we then also invite them to participate. And I guess another important thing that I need to mention in relation to the mentorship is we also do a matchmaking activity between, well, the startups and also the mentors, because what we want to happen essentially in every interaction that you have with the mentors is sort of what Nelly and Kate really had. So in order to achieve that, we also run a matchmaking activity for both the startups and the mentors, after also having like a group event organized, so you already know like who are you speaking with and who are actually the mentors.
I would just reiterate to the audience that Digital Catapult are super well connected, and that is, I'm sure Kate will be able to tell you more on that, but a huge benefit of the program is that network and tapping into other catapults as well. So yeah.
Especially in the VR and immersive tech space, it's such a small world. Like, I came from the world of journalism, which is small, but oh my gosh, the immersive tech is tiny, and Digital Catapult knows everyone, and they'll introduce you to whoever you need.
So I guess if Dave doesn't have anything else to add there, it would be great to get like a one-liner, I guess, conclusion on your side, or concluding message on, you know, I guess why apply for Augmentor? What was the best thing that I guess you experienced throughout the program, or like any kind of piece of advice for the early stage founders that are looking at it?
Yeah, I can go first. Maybe just to address that, there was one question in the Q&A. I think some people will be interested to know just, you know, if like, you know, with the funding, you know, is this for projects or is it for companies? And I've seen a lot of applications before which maybe don't kind of quite meet the mark just because it's either project funding or, you know, it's more of a, you know, an agency model or something like this. I think for me at least, the companies that will be kind of most interesting is companies that, you know, do want to raise an extra round of funding, you know, are happy to take on board kind of equity investors and kind of looking to grow and scale up quite quickly. I would just say when you're doing your application, you know, just really focus on the key parts, like all of the kind of the jury and stuff have to, I don't know what the right word is, the selection committee, there'll be a lot of applications, so just be kind of as succinct as possible, but kind of, you know, make it clear kind of what your business is, what solution, what problem you're solving, etc. But yeah, do evaluate whether it kind of you fit the profile of that kind of company, because it's not kind of project funding, unlike other things like Innovate and Creative XR, etc.
I can jump in to say I can't remember what the three questions were. Why apply? The best thing was the mentorship and the peers. Why apply? Because it's the only immersive tech accelerator out there, and immersive tech is so particular. And even if you're not ready for investment at the moment, as Dave said, if you're applying, it's because you should be thinking about getting there. And to have those connections at an early stage, as I think you've said, Dave, it's sort of starting the dating process early on is really useful. And then one sort of take home is don't estimate how far you're going to come. That picture that Leah showed up at the beginning was taken in January at the end of my cohort. It feels like a lifetime ago, just because, you know, running a startup is really fast paced, and Augmentor will push you and keep pushing you and keep pushing you until you think you can't run anymore, but you'll always keep running.
Yeah, I would kind of echo that. It's the only program of its kind in London. If you're in the immersive space, you really ought to be connected with that network. And yeah, and I know that they're really keen for more female people to apply as well. So just like people of all backgrounds, apply to the program. That's the advice.
Yeah, I'll end it up with that. Apply. Don't be afraid. Or if you think that you're not suitable to apply, please reach out to us. We can still help. We're always there to try to support you in best possible way. So yeah, don't be afraid to reach out and speak with us.
Thanks a lot to all the panelists. And now I'm going to hand it over to Leah to do some sort of like kind of, you know, thank you notes and next steps for the audience, and sort of like kind of take it from there.
Yeah, Julia, thank you. I'll just share my screen for a few moments so we can wrap it up. I would just like to say thank you all once again for joining, and we sincerely hope we answered your questions. And in case if we didn't, please reach out to us at this email that you can see on the screen right now. So hello@augmentor.co.uk. We're happy to answer any questions, as I already said. Again, a massive thank you to our panelists. So thank you, Christoph, thank you, Dave, thank you, Nelly, and thank you, Kate.